locked in my decision to have a collision with my purpose. It is my assignment to be in alignment with my purpose. I'm locked in, going all out, no fear, no doubt. My God, my choice, your will, I'm all yours. Locked in, going all out, no fear, no doubt. My God, my choice, your will, your will, your will. Locked in my decision to have a collision with my purpose. It is my assignment to be in alignment with my purpose. Have a collision with purpose, 'cause you know that you're worth it, and your dream is worth capturing. If I'm not living on purpose, then none of it is worth it. My assignment is uplifting souls for the King, souls for the King, souls for the King.
Greetings, friends of the A Collision with Purpose movement. Welcome to Bridging Generations, Voices of Men and Women in a Changing World. I am Dr. Laxley Stephenson. This groundbreaking podcast delves into the multifaceted experiences of men and women across different generations. In an era where societal norms and expectations rapidly evolve, this show offers young and older men and women a unique platform to voice their challenges, triumphs, and perspectives.
Each episode aims to foster understanding and bridge the gap between generations, exploring themes ranging from masculinity and mental health to career dynamics and personal relationships. By bringing together voices from varied age groups, the show sheds light on the commonalities and differences in the male experience, encouraging open dialogue and mutual learning. I am Dr. Garfield McCook, one of your hosts.
So whether it's a teenager grappling with the pressures of social media or a senior reflecting on the changing definitions of manhood, Bridging Generations is committed to uncovering the real stories of men navigating the complexities of a changing world. I am Dr. Juan Marcel, another one of your co-hosts for this wonderful show. Doc, I should say Dr. Stephenson, what is going on?
I like Doc. Doc is good. It's a signature thing. But you know what's happening is we have Dr. Donna L. Thompson with us, our producer, and she decided to join us tonight, live and in person. Hi, Dr. Donna.
Dr. DL.
Hello, all my fellow doctors. Thank you so much for having me on the platform this evening.
You know, Dr. Donna, you're always on the platform because you're always making things happen, whether it's in front or behind the scene. We can't do it without you. You know, so one, you ask me what's up, man. Big things are happening in a collision with purpose world, and Dr. Donna is going to take us through this whole thing about February 22nd. It's next year, right? Not this year.
Yeah, next year.
Coming your way.
Life is moving so fast. Sometimes I get all messed up with the dates, and things, but it's okay, right? In Dr. Gary?
Yeah, it's a great thing. It's a great thing. It's a fun thing.
It's a fun thing. But before we get into the colloquium thing, Juan, I have a question for you. You made some commitments that, when we got started with this platform. How are you doing with your commitments?
Well, those commitments have I would have to say it's they've grown beyond my expectation. When I started out, we were talking about just taking on some mentoring initiatives, and that has grown. One in particular, with the John and Juan Stewart Jr. Foundation. I've been working with this group, and they're part of the Nesby Jr. Program, and so they're future engineers. So these students are ranging from age 8 to 18, and so I've taken on the role of director of service learning.
Ooh.
So on the weekends, I have the distinct honor and privilege of working with these young adults, teaching them just leadership principles, servant leadership, what it looks like to be a service learner, and how it impacts their career choices, college, and stuff like that. So I'm loving it. I'm learning as well as they are. So we're learning at the same time. So it's been a great experience so far.
You know, as one teach to learn, right? And I know you're that lifelong learner, so it's just what you do. What you do.
Yeah.
Dr. McCook.
Yes, sir.
What's happening in your space?
Well, you know, it's a 360. It's a revolving door. You know, especially since getting the being honored with the title. The phone is ringing. You know, and people are looking to you. They've heard me speak before, and you know, I've listened to me on different occasions. But now it's like they're looking at me on a different level, wanting to like a counselor, you know. And I even at my personal care home, I am getting calls, and I have to be telling them, you know, no, it's a honorary doctorate. It's not an MD. But it's been very interesting. Just keep on keeping mentoring to people, and just being that light to the world.
You know, the important thing with any awards, honors, or knowledge that you gain is what you do with it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I hear you saying over there. So, Dr. Donna, what's happening in your space? And I know you're going to talk about a collision with purpose, so that's your business. But from a personal standpoint, what's going on with you?
Oh my goodness. A lot. A lot's going on. But you know, I think what Dr. McCook said kind of resonated with me in the sense that, you know, now that I have you know, been bestowed this wonderful recognition of, you know, honorary Dr. Donna Thompson, all this great stuff. And it's making me think more about the other things that I need to do, right? So, you know, my mind has been working, and I'm looking at, you know, other opportunities now that I have, not that I wasn't doing it before, but I think I'm being a little bit more intentional of certain things that I'm looking at, that in the coming probably few months, I would love to venture more into. And that is, I'm very passionate about the elderly and the need that I see in my community, where more and more elders are living by themselves, and they're needing a lot of services and a lot of help. And so more to come on that, but I know that I'll be doing more work with that.
And I should say we have our guest tonight will add some information and add some value to what you're talking about there, because she's so versed in all these things. So we're looking forward to our conversation with her tonight. You know, for me, it's all about scholarships. And, you know, at our colloquium this year, it is my hope and my plan to give out at least 12 of those things, those scholarships. And you know what we're doing in Kenya as well. With that, we can't do enough of that, because it is all about the generation coming. You know, we're here to do what we do, but we're not doing it for ourselves. We're here to bring them and make sure we create a path for them. So before we go any further, let me play this video. And as I'm playing the video, Dr. Donna, can you speak to it, please?
Sure. All righty. So, of course, we have our colloquium that is coming up February 22nd of 2025. And, you know, like we see on our screen here, it's a night of self-discovery and personal growth. So, definitely you're going to come in, you're going to be inspired to improve yourself. I definitely encourage everyone that just come there empty, knowing that you're going to be impacted. It's going to have a lasting impact on your life, your outlook on everything that you're doing, within your current life and in the future, right? So I definitely encourage everyone to come out and join us on February 22nd at the Shiloh High School. The doors will open at 5 p.m. Showtime begins at 6 p.m. And currently tickets are on sale. We do have an early bird special for $60. So definitely go ahead and get your ticket now. Our website is actually going across the screen there. So, definitely take advantage of the early bird special. And once again, it's going to be at Shiloh High School. We are going to be honoring individuals in our communities, of course. And there'll be awards that will be given out. Dr. Stephenson mentioned earlier, we will have scholarships. We're definitely trying to give out as many scholarships to students as we possibly can. But the students, they do have to be there, right? So they do have to be there to get the scholarships. And we're going to have the launching of Daily Insights Unveiled, Your Odyssey to Find Purpose, which is written by none other than our Dr. Laxley W. Stephenson. And this is a piece of work that you do not want to miss. So definitely get your tickets, because when you get your tickets, you will also receive a copy of this book. And if you're in the house, it's going to be autographed by Dr. Stephenson, of course, but it's a powerhouse of a book that will motivate you, inspire you. I mean, anywhere you turn into this book, to be honest with you, you're going to find something that resonates with you. It doesn't even matter if you turn to the middle, the front, the back. It doesn't matter where you start in this book. You're going to find something that resonates with you and speak to you, that's going to impact you in some capacity, that's going to be positive. So once again, go out and get your tickets.
Now you can see why Donna is the explainer.
Yes.
She explains it so well. And I did post the link for the event to purchase your early bird ticket. Go out, get it. They're moving, and you want to get there and get a good seat. You want to be up front because you don't want to miss anything. We're going to have some powerful speakers, people we're honoring, of course, students, as we always do, attend for free. And for a student to receive a scholarship, they must be in attendance. All right? Except for the ones we're doing overseas. Then we don't expect those students to be in attendance. So to receive a scholarship, if you're watching this broadcast tonight and you have a student in your home, bring them out. There's no charge. Of course, you'll have to pay as an adult. You have to pay to come in, because we got to pay for the event. So while this is not a charitable event, it's very much so. It's about giving back. It's about giving back. One thing that we've always done here at A Collision with Purpose, whenever we sell a book, we donate some money to charity. So it's not all for profit. That's not the business we're in. We're in uplifting individuals, building communities, and that means that we got to give. So I think this is a good time for us to take a quick break. And then when we come back, we'll bring on our guests for the evening, and we got some big conversation to have tonight. All right, so let's not bring her on yet. Let me play a video, and let's go hard on this video. All right.
That strive through fire and flame, they find their way, becoming iron where courage holds sway. Becoming iron, and with heart forged in fire, tales of courage and conviction rising even higher, displaying strength in the fiercest fight, becoming iron, shining in the night. Faces the darkest night, the empowered man fights with all his might. The resilient man stands unwavering and strong. The empowered man fights with all his might. The resilient man stands unwavering and strong. The inspired man knows where he belongs. Becoming iron knows where he belongs. Becoming iron, shining in the night. Becoming iron, with hearts forged in fire. Tales of courage and conviction, rising even higher. Displaying strength in the fiercest fight. Men becoming iron, shining in the night. The brave man faces the darkest night. The empowered man fights with all his might. The resilient man stands unwavering and strong, shining in the night. And the tales of old and the battles new. Convictions light sees them through. From abysses deep to the morning light. They becoming iron in the endless fight. Becoming iron with hearts forged in fire. Tales of courage and conviction, rising even higher. Displaying strength in the fiercest fight. Men becoming iron, shining in the night. In the tales of old and the battles new, convictions light sees them through. From abysses deep to the morning light, they become iron in the endless fight. They become iron in the endless fight. In the tales of old and the battles new, convictions light sees them through.
All right, welcome back. Becoming iron, men facing whatever they face through the night, right? So, Juan, I know you're that resilient man. I know, Gary, you're that resilient man. I know, Donna, you are what you do. You are that resilient, brave, empowered, everything woman. And that's why we need you so much. But that's another conversation, right? Becoming iron. It's an anthology. We're going to be making a major announcement. It's by invitation only, and we'll be talking about that at the colloquium. All right. So, Dr. McCook, can you do us the honor of bringing on our guest tonight?
Okay, yes. And for those just joining us, you are on a Collision with Purpose podcast, Bridging Generations, Voices of Men in a Changing World. But tonight we have two special persons on, Dr. Donna Thompson, and our distinguished guest tonight is a true Jamaican. She was born in Jamaica, grew up in Canada, and moved to Georgia in 1998. A chemical engineer by profession, she has over 20 years experience in quality assurance, management, and engineering. This Jamaican stalwart is the president and CEO of EnviroQual LLC, a quality assurance regulatory consulting company specializing in medical devices, food, plastics, and pharmaceuticals. Our guest is also a mother and grandmother. Her current forte is in the field of politics. She has had associations with the likes of John Lewis, Barack Obama, and most recently Kamala Harris. She was elected State House Representative for District 105 in 2018 and was endorsed by Barack Obama and Eric Holder. Her credits include ensuring that ex-felons' records are updated and they are informed of their restoration and voting rights. She introduced legislation to ensure that government employees are paid on Juneteenth holiday. Ladies and gentlemen, help me welcome the Honorable Donna McLeod.
Let's bring her on in style. Donna, bring her on. Donna, bring the Honorable Lady on. Yes, she is.
Wow. I'm truly honored, and what an introduction. Thank you, Dr. McCook and Dr. Stephenson and Dr. Thompson and Dr. Marcel. Thank you guys for having me, and I'm looking forward to this conversation. And thank you to everyone that's watching. And I'm honored to be in the man cave. Thank you for the invitation to the man cave.
Wow, invitation to the man. First of all, how are you doing?
You know what? This has been a trying time for the last couple of years, but as long as we've been given the breath of life, we do the very most we can and do as much good as we can and continue to always do as much good as we can, because as long as we are here, we have a purpose. All of us have a purpose. It is not divine only to you, me, and the rest of us that are on here. It's every one of us have a purpose. We just got to figure it out.
Absolutely. You know, I think we want to begin with you. You know, Dr. McCook did such an awesome job introducing you, but I want you to introduce yourself to our audience.
So he did do a great job. I was born in Kingston, Jamaica. In fact, I was born in West Kingston. So the Tivoli Garden, I was born in Jubilee Hospital. And so funny, I actually took my daughter back to Jamaica, and we were slammed with the hurricane this year. But I took her down to West Kingston, and because that's where I'm from. So she was like, "Mom, you really did grow up humbly." And it's not her first time to Jamaica. The last time we stayed in a bed and breakfast up in Ocho Rios. And so it's a little and the Bay Area, on the Montego Bay area. But as an adult, this is the first time she went down. She said that to me, and I said, I guess people would probably say that I grew up poor, but you're only poor if you have comparison, right? Mm-hmm. If you don't have any comparison, I was happy. The only thing that was difficult for me in some ways was that I also was a child in the early 70s, and it was a very violent time in Jamaica because of political violence. So there was definitely a lot of unrest politically in Kingston. But overall, the freeness of being a kid in Jamaica was just fantastic. I could not have asked for a more real, more down to earth, and some of the most funniest people I've ever met in my life. Jamaica is a rich, rich culture. And in fact, most people want to say Jamaica is a continent in itself, right? Because the people are so very unique. And anywhere you go in this world, for an island of its size, people know Jamaicans, because our product that we have sent to the world has always been good, from the music to our sports to the food. We have been tremendously blessed. But my father left Jamaica in the 60s, late 60s. Actually, I was only a year old when my father left for Canada. And those who might not know, Canada and Jamaica are part of the British Commonwealth. And at the time, they were looking for people in Canada to help build its infrastructure. And my father was a welder. And so he went to Canada. And because it was so violent, my grandmother was very insistent that my father take my sister and I up to Canada. And he tells me stories about his first time in Canada, and snow comes down and he has no clue what it is. And trying not to be, out of sorts, he just he saw people making snowballs, and he just picked it up and started throwing it too, not having a clue what it is. And so in 1977, my father did get us all, myself, my sister Jacqueline, who's no longer here with us, and my stepsister, who's my stepmother's daughter. All three of us took the plane at the same time. And it's so strange because that plane flight had Leroy Sibbles on it. And I remember us talking to him, and I was we didn't know what to expect. So we were a little bit nervous and stuff. And he just told, "You're going to be all right, man. You're going to be all right." And so it's so funny because this year I got to see him again at another event this year. And that would be, what am I, 56? I was 9. It was like 47 years later. I am an adult woman, and there he is, still looking good, by the way. He's still looking good. And so that's kind of how I got to Canada, was through my dad. And I grew up in Canada. I left Jamaica when I was 9 years old. And the next 21 years I spent in Canada. I went through elementary school, middle school, and high school. And also I got my degree in chemistry in Canada. Canada provided me with the ability to actually have in a society that wasn't so confronted by ethnicity or what we call race. it doesn't mean that it didn't exist. It wasn't such a bombarding. I remember first going to Canada, and that was the first time I kind of realized that I was Black, because in Jamaica it was not a problem, and I was always comfortable in my own skin. But realizing that my skin color was a little bit different, but the adjustment was good. One of the things about Jamaicans is they have no problem making sure the rest of them family and friends come up wherever they are. So Canada, actually, Southern Ontario has a large Jamaican population, huge. And so it's always funny when people think about Canada and they don't really realize how diverse Ontario is. But it was a great childhood in Canada. I mean, we had our difficulties with our family because we were a blended family. So there was some issues, but overall, everything that happens in your life makes you who you are, right? And so I got to Canada, did my thing. My daughter was born in Canada. In fact, she turned 38 this last month. And I was able to get a life together and able to take care of her. And it's funny, I went out first, I wanted to go into medical field. I remember when I went to the college I graduated from, I was looking to go into the medical field, and they didn't have a course for me. So I was really good in math, and they said they had a chemical engineering program. So I said, what do I need to do? And I said, I really didn't spend a lot of time studying the periodic table. I mean, I studied a little bit, but not a lot. And the professor at the time said, come to my office. She happens to be a Jamaican too at the time. And she said, come to my office and let's go over the periodic table. So we went over it, and I started that course with 136 people. And I think only 37 of us actually graduated with the engineering degree. And so that's kind of how I did things in Canada. Canada had, a whole lot of, you go through your life as a woman and as a young woman, the love stories, all of that stuff, all of that. I have all of it. All of it, I tell me, of all of it. I spare no expense in my living. I enjoyed it all. I did it all. And then back in 1991, my dad, who was working both sides of the border, decided that he was going to try to retire in Florida. So he ended up getting sponsored by his mom, my grandmother, Mother Mock. And I have to tell you, she's one of the I will talk a little bit more about her, but she sponsored him because she ended up going to New York, and she sponsored him. So he went to Florida, and he asked us if we were interested in moving to the States. We said, sure, why not? Why not? Goodness, I mean, I love Jamaica. I can certainly leave Canada. And so it took 7 years to get the green card. And during that time, of course, I'm living. The American government in 1998 basically it was the end of 1997, sent us a letter saying that we had 6 months to get out of Dodge. So they said, basically, pack up your stuff. You have 6 months or you've vacated the green card. So between 91 and 98 or 97, what happened in Georgia? The Olympics. And so as a result, Atlanta or Georgia became mostly Atlanta. The Atlanta area came on my purview. And because I was thinking about moving to Seattle. And after looking at both of them, Atlanta was more attractive because between Atlanta and Canada, it was about an hour-and-a-half flight. And then also from Atlanta to Jamaica is about a 2-hour flight. So it's almost dead in the center of both of these places. So we came down here. We loved the cleanliness because I'd gone to New York. No disrespect to the New Yorkers. Back in the 80s, I was not impressed. Canada is very clean. I was used to a certain lifestyle. I was not going to come to the US and live a lifestyle that was different from what I was living in Canada. And so when I came down here, I was really in kind of, the only thing that was kind of different was there was not a lot of water in the metro area. Otherwise, it looked, it had that feeling of country, but you also could get that feeling of city. And I moved to DeKalb County first. I spent 2 years in DeKalb County in Clarkston, Georgia. And then I ended up buying a house in Gwinnett County. And I've been here now for 24 years. And so that's kind of how my transition from Jamaica to Canada and then to the United States in 1998. I certainly wouldn't have expected where I was going to go with my life in the U.S. As it unfolds, but I didn't know if you wanted to ask me another question or do you want to continue?
Yeah, we're going to get to all the details. It's going to jump out. And let's pass it to Donna, Dr. Donna, because I know she's ready to ask your question.
Yeah, sure. So, oh my gosh, of course, you know, we've met before and I just totally, you know, love hearing you speak because it's just so empowering and moving with all the work that you've done and you continue to do, which is very inspiring for me. But I want to ask you, because, you know, chemical engineering to now where you are, right? But what inspired you to transition from a career in chemical engineering to now a life of public service and activism?
So I initially didn't completely transition. It was kind of a gradual thing. So I come and I get my first job at this smaller manufacturing company, and they were looking for a quality manager. So that's how I kind of started. I was doing my engineering. So in 2000, so I came here in 1998, and in 2000 there was this election, right? Where Gore and George W. Bush and Florida was called for Gore, and then all of a sudden it was rescinded. And as a math person, numbers, there's no like in between for numbers. It's either you got more or you got less. That's it. And so when it was rescinded, I was very disturbed by that. And I was not yet a citizen, but I was on a bus to Florida where I was protesting George W. Bush's inauguration. I said, they're going to throw me out of this country. So that's how it kind of started. But after that, I kind of went back to doing my engineering stuff. And then in 2004, this young man comes on the stage, and they said his name was Barack Obama. And he brought up, he had his, this is not a blue state or a red state, this is the United States of America. And I thought to myself, he's so like, he just had this way about him. And then he brought up his wife and 2 kids. I was convinced. I said, if he ever ran for president, I was going to be there on day one. And I actually did that. Once he announced the big his run for presidency, I was there from day one. I remember some of the Jamaican folks say, Donna, you're not afraid if they kill him, you're not afraid. I'm like, if they ain't afraid, why should I be afraid? And at the end of the day, I was comfortable. I'm always comfortable with Black leadership because I grew up knowing that people look like me were leaders, right? My grandmother, I'll go back a little bit, who could not read and write. At some point, she was in Canada with us, and we sat down with her to write her name. Her name was Mabel McLeod. And my grandmother had never written her own name because she could not read and write. And I think to myself, how would I can't even imagine not being able to read what's scrolling at this bottom. Growth is available. I could not imagine not being able to read and write. But yet she was tasked with raising 8 children, and she was a seller in the market, and she made it. And she bought her house in Tivoli Garden, where even the husband that didn't act right with her, that's the home he lived in until he died. This woman who could not read and write. And that's who I am the descendant of. And for that, I'm truly honored and grateful that she's my grandmother. And so as a result, I have no problem seeing Black people in leadership. So it was not a no-brainer for me to jump on the wagon with the Barack Obama possibility of being president. So I remember when we started with Barack Obama, I remember going down into Atlanta, And at that time, the only civil rights leader that was, on his side was Reverend Lowry. And I remember going down there. There was only, the office was at North Side, and I remember driving from Gwinnett County down to Atlanta, and I remember getting down there, and there was only 14 people in the office. 5 of them were from the state of Georgia. 9 was from other places across the United States. And I went out canvassing with a young kid from Texas, a white kid, actually. We went out, I drove him, and I remember the day it started snowing. So I said to him, do you want to go back to the car? And he said, no, I'm doing this for Barack. And when I tell you, being a part of that whole thing was an amazing journey, because that's the first time you could be in an office where you see somebody with a hijab, a beanie, Muslims, Jews, black, white, tall, short. It was everybody, and we were all pulling for this man. And I remember thinking back then, I never doubted his ability to do it, but I remember thinking, would this country elect him? And it was not until Iowa. I remember Iowa when there was a caucus vote, and he won. And that is when African Americans started saying, hey, this might be possible, because if some white folks can vote for him, why the heck can't we vote for him? And that's when that wheel started changing. I remember the pressure on Congressman Lewis, because he had initially supported the First Lady, and I don't think she was Senator at the time. I'm not sure. Hillary Rodham Clinton at the time, and everybody else was behind her until that happened, and then it started flipping. And I was there from the beginning. Like I said, I've never been a follower. I've always been somewhat a person who always knew my own mind, and I was always committed to making sure that I trust my own judgment. And so in 2008, he was elected president of these United States. I remember being in a hotel room, and I remember the night when we were watching CNN, and Wolf Blitzer, I think it was at 10:55, he said, I'm going down and I will be right back. And once I come back up, we should have the West Coast. And instead of his face coming on the screen, it said on the bottom, Barack Obama will be the 44th president of these United States. And the room went crazy. I still get emotional. I'm sorry.
And that's okay.
I get emotional about it because it was pandemonium in the thing, and just the gravity of it all. I would never change it. Even with all of this, even though I know now in 2024, all of this stuff, I would never change it, because at that moment in time, he was the right person. And so I'm grateful that I was there from the very beginning. And in 2012, I was the national director for voter outreach for Black Women for Obama. And I'm very honored that I had the moment in time to be in this country at such a pivotal time in the US, and I'm still here. And so that's how I kind of started getting into the political arena. And I really want to stress to people not to just think of it as politics. Politics is that process, right? This country is a republic. It is a republic. That means that the people are the government. And in order for the people's voice to be heard, they have to have representation. They have to basically elect people that will represent them. And people need to look at it in that way, that when you go to the voting booth, you're actually voting in order to help everybody else around you, based on the tax dollars that are collected from you. And so politics is just the process. It's the persuasion part. The bigger part is when we're elected and how we use your tax dollars on your behalf. Remember, this country went to war in 1775, because in 1774, it started the U.S. Revolutionary War, where these white folks from England came to this country and decided they didn't want to be under a monarch, or they didn't want to, be subjected to persecution for religion. And so they came to this country in that vein. And so they fought their own country of origin to become and I guess there was about 13 colonies at the time to become what we now call the United States of America. And they went, one of the reasons was for taxation without representation. And so the more you understand history is the more you are better equipped not to repeat it. And so at the end of the day, I am a person who has seen this, because I had to become a citizen and pay my $680 to be a citizen, and also, tested, take the test to learn about this country. I take it very seriously. I take my oath that I took to become a citizen very seriously, but I also think this country has a long way to go still. And there's been 27 amendments to the Constitution. And I say to people often, you do not have a right to vote unless you are a white man that own land. You have the ability to vote, because 2/3 of Congress can undo any amendments to the Constitution. So I just want people to understand why it's so important that you participate. And it's not about a personality contest. Do your homework, find out who people are. And so, becoming a citizen and having that ability was really great. I don't know if you guys want me to go into how I end up being elected, but that's...
Yeah, we're going to get into that. But what I want to do now, and I know, Dr. McCook, you're not going to be on for much longer, but do you have a question for the Honorable lady?
Yeah, I do. The most honorable. What a smile! She lights up any room she goes in. Donna is just such a true leader here, true grassroots person here in Georgia, and we just commend you, Donna. I mean, you're always there, never miss a beat. But what are some of the key challenges you faced in your journey from grassroots organizing to state legislature, and how did you overcome them? And a second part of that question I was going to ask both, since I'm going to be going, how has your experience as a minority, how was your experience as a minority and as a woman in leadership shaped your approach to policy and advocacy?
So, of course, being a woman, that's one thing. Being a Black woman, another thing. But also being an immigrant is also another thing, right? So you got people pushing back that looks like you, who feels like, okay, she's not born here. So even African Americans, right? Because what is very defining is not skin color. It's actually culture, right? Culture is way more defining, right? So I could have a lot more in common with somebody who's a white Jamaican or a Chinese Jamaican than probably with an African American. But at the core of everything, I am an Afro woman, a woman of whose descendant, whose ancestry started in the continent of Africa. And it was a matter of ports, right? So some was dropped off in South America, some was dropped off in the islands, and then others were forwarded on to the US, right? And so that is something that I also had to overcome. But I also have to respect for the people that lived here and have done so much of the work so that we could live in the South as well, right? So understanding and being respectful of everybody's contribution is very important. I do not consider myself a minority, because that again is a way to describe us, to make us feel inferior. We are not minorities. In fact, if you're going to look at culture, the folks that are of our lighter hue or white people, they are actually the minority in the world. People of color are the majority in the world. And I think we have to be very cognitive about making sure how people define us. But if you're asking me as a woman of as a Black woman, there's always challenges. Even some of the folks that are supposed to be your friend can sometimes be a pretty I'm trying to get the word, where they minimize your worth. I'll give you this break, but if somebody else that we feel better than you or looks more like the way we think somebody should look, they'll just go bypass you. You have to have a thick skin, and you have to know who you are. And that is what especially for women, be intentional, be purposeful about who you are, know who you are, because the easiest person is someone who doesn't know who they are. You're easily influenced, and people will push you to change if you don't know who you are. If you know who you are, it's like, no, not today. It ain't happening. And so I think for me, it's been very important that I'm very grounded in the roots that I came from my Jamaican roots, but also the experience I had in Canada. And now that I live in the South, it is all part of me. But what is most important is I know who I am. And so if you're trying to change me, good luck with that, because it ain't gonna happen. And the older I get is the worse I get of who I am. So it's not gonna be something that you should be attempting to do, because it ain't gonna work. But at the end of the day, the more anyone who's really comfortable in their skin will tend to be much more open to giving back as well, because you don't lose anything when you give, you gain more. And even if somebody does better than you did with what you had, that's a compliment to you and how you taught them. It's nothing to lose.
You know, Honorable Donna McCleod, Lisa Richmond says, say it louder. She said, be proud of your historical family where you come from. She said, truth, it is vital. That is facts. Truth rise. Say it louder. Yes, awesome story. Thank you, Lisa, for those comments. Real stuff. So, Dr. Juan.
Yes,
your
yes.
turn, sir.
Well, to the Honorable McCleoud. So we hear about, this fight to represent culture, right, as well as community. And we realize that as we've already heard, you've put in so much work. But your work has touched areas from voting rights restoration for ex-felons to updating voter tools. What motivated you to prioritize these areas, and what impact have you seen from these initiatives?
So I guess I got to go back a little bit, because I was elected in 2018. So I ran. So it was not my intention to run. I had been helping people run. I didn't become a citizen until 2012. And so I'd been helping other people run. There was a young lady that ran twice in the seat that I occupied eventually. But I wasn't really interested in at that time to run. I had just started my nonprofit organization called CANI, Community Action Network Initiatives. And it's a civic organization, and it's a nonprofit. And so, like I said, I wasn't interested. I'd been asked 5 times. I think it was the 5th or the 6th time. I finally was asked by Representative Dewey McLean, who's also an ex-football player for the Falcons. And he came to me and he says, Donna, we really need to flip this seat. And you already have the experience and you know the area. And, I would really like for you to run. And the reason why I said yes to him and not anybody else was because I had respect for him. He had showed up when we needed the help. He was the one that was there. So one thing about your life, you should always be a person of your word. And the more you are a person of your word, people will get confidence in you. And so he was the one that changed my mind, because, Stacey Abrams had surrogates reached out to me and I told them no, I wasn't interested. And so I ran, and in fact, I ran first in 2016 and I lost that election by 222 votes. And this was the election with, at the time with the felon, Trump, and Hillary. And when we did the analysis after that race, we found out that 2,100 people hadn't voted. Those were Democrats that had not voted. And my task was to flip the seat, right? So 2,100 people. So what we did, about 5, I have to say shout out to Susan Clymer and Sharon. They were just one of the dedicated people. That whole of 2017, they went out with me every day after work, I would finish work, I would come home and I would canvass along with them. We went to different parts and we hit all 2,100 doors with a card that said, "Thank you for voting." And we knew they hadn't voted, but we let them know it was only 222 votes that separated myself from my opponent. And in 2018, I was elected with over 4,000 more votes than my opponent. And so at the time, I just thought I flipped the seat from a Republican seat to a Democratic seat. And apparently I made history at that moment. You don't go, let me tell you, you don't set out to make history. That's foolishness. You never set out. Someone called me. I think it was Mr. Hines. And he called me and he says he's writing an article for the Jamaican Observer or Jamaica Gleaner. And he said, "Did you know that you just made history? You're the first Jamaican born on person of Caribbean heritage to serve in the Georgia House." And I said, "Oh, is that true?" And so be it. I was the first. But, for me, after going through that little bit of, publicity stuff, the work had to begin. And it's all about the work, right? It's all about service to folks and making sure that you are in a space that when you're at the table, you don't let your folks be on the menu anymore. Because if you're not at the table, you're going to be on the menu. And so for me, I took it seriously. And going down I remember the first time I actually went down to the well to speak, it was about Mabel McLeod, because she was a fighter. She's the kind of woman that I admire. And so when I went to speak about my grandmother, I was very proud of that. And from stepping into that space, voting has always been critical, because I coined a phrase that says, knowledge is the most powerful thing you give to yourself, but the vote is the most powerful thing we give to each other, because it actually determines how we all live. And so voting was so instrumental in allowing us as Black people in this country after slavery ended, just to have a voice. And so much had been done to basically suppress it over the years. And so I don't know, I just naturally gravitate to root cause. I've always been a root cause person. And so my years in Gwinnett County, when I got here, I started registering people to vote. I registered over 30,000 people. When everybody thought this county was just red and it would never be blue, we were up here doing the work. Me and two other women, Marlene Taylor Crawford, who is now the mayor pro tem for Lawrenceville, a woman named Penny Poole, and myself. We went to these Board of Elections meeting and commissioners meeting to make sure that they knew that we were not going to be quiet. The county was changing. The diversity was changing. We want to make sure that diversity was acknowledged and respected. And so the work was done long before I even thought about running for office. But I always knew voting was going to be a root cause to any solution here. And there's been so much done to suppress it. Even as a state legislator, after the 2020 election, we were forced to sit through to argue about a piece of legislation that changed how we did voting in the state of Georgia. Of course, they can't violate the federal law, but they certainly can make state laws that make it harder and let the ballot box not be as accessible. And so that's one of the things that I fought back on. In fact, if you go to iwillvote.com, it will take you to the My Voter page, which is the Secretary of State website. If you will find, once you put in your first initial, last name, date of birth, and the county you're registered in, you will find that you can now see your school board district and your commissioner district. This was something that I worked with the Secretary of State to make sure that everyone in the state of Georgia didn't have to go ahead and find their precinct, then find the map of their commissioner district, and then find a precinct in that map in order to know what school board district they live in, or what map, or the map of their commissioner district to find their precinct, to find out what commissioner district. Now you just have to go to My Voter page and you will see it. And yes, I was intentional in my time in the Georgia House about making sure that I did everything to make people's life a little bit easier. That's our job. That's what we're elected to do, to provide the service that makes life a little bit easier for the people we're going to be serving.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Honorable Dr. Donna McCleoud. I think it's so fitting for me to add that piece. Dr. McCook, I know you got to go. Give you an opportunity before we go to break to ask another question before you go, because I know you're on a schedule.
Yes, and my schedule actually, I would say, takes me on my first official duty to New York tomorrow, to really reach out to someone there who I would say is in need of care. And my Andrea and I will fly out tomorrow and come back Tuesday to sort of go up there and see the situation and see how well we can encourage and motivate the individual in question to be strong and possible take them back to Georgia and for them to stay with us for a while, just to so I'd say that's my first official duty since I was given the honor of the honorary doctorate. Well, let me see what I can ask this lady. I mean, she has such wealth of knowledge. It's like, we can touch on anything and she has the answers.
I'm also older, so
than who?
I might
Than
look
me?
young, but I got age on me.
I'm not sure about that now.
Not than me.
I've had a full life. Let me just say that.
Yes. Let me see. Through your organization, I think it's CANI. Is the
CANI?
Yeah. You've registered over 30,000 new voters. What do you believe is the role of civic engagement in empowering communities, especially for future generations?
It's everything. This country is a republic. It is. We set up. We remember anything that man does, man can undo. Right? We set up our societies, and so this particular society says that the country is based on the people's viewpoint and what the people want. That's why it's a republic. And so that is why Community Action Network initiatives has been instrumental in making sure that people do register to vote, but not just register to vote, but be civically engaged and civically aware. It's one thing to register to vote, but many people are registered to vote and don't vote. And that is something that we have to be very mindful of, about ensuring that you exercise this ability. And like I said earlier, it's not a right, it's an ability. The only people with a right to vote in this country are white men that own land, period. And so for us to be neglectful of that ability so we can actually change things, that's on us. When you elect someone, your job is not done. Your job has just begun. You have to call in. You should be asking them what they're doing, how they're going to be doing things, keeping them accountable. Accountability is part of government. And if we, the people, a government of the people, by the people, and for the people, do not exercise their right and their ability, then they're failing. You're failing this country. Period.
Thank you.
Thank you. We're going to go to break, but before we go to break, I want to ask a very quick yes, no, not so much for the honorable lady, but for us on the platform here. Regular folks are here all the time. Do you think she should be running again soon?
Soon. I'll be campaigning with her.
I told her she
I was thinking the same thing.
told her she better bring me on board too.
Yes.
Not just as a bystander or
Definitely
someone
want to be on this team right here. Yes.
You know,
Got your whole team.
Dr. Lax,
Yes,
she
sir.
can. I've actually given her a new title based on her involvement, and she knows she's laughing. During the last episode we had, which paused about 2 Tuesdays ago. I addressed her as Madam Secretary, and she says, "Why are you doing that?" I said, "Well, you have that presence as a Madam Secretary." So before I go again, Madam Secretary, thanks for all you do, and love you, and see you soon.
Say hello to your wife for me, and you guys safe travels to New York.
All righty.
All right.
You got
All right,
Lisa.
Doc, we'll talk.
Huh?
No, I'm telling her she has Lisa's vote.
Yeah, Lisa just said you got my vote, and I'm not.
Oh, thank you, Lisa. If I ran again, guys, one of the things that we as Caribbean PF got to understand.
If
When you
when you run again,
it takes money to run, and I just want people to understand. I would like to see less money in politics, to be honest, to the political process, because you want good candidates, not because they can afford more, but because they will do more. And I think it's important that people understand that donating to a campaign is not my personal money, because I tell you something, I ain't going to jail for nobody. And any money that is donated, we have to actually put it in the ethics report and account for every dollar that is donated to a campaign. And so if I was to run again, my community needs to understand, especially the Caribbean community, I need to have people really step up in the donating part. And then I also need people that are physically going to be willing. I love canvassing, door knocking, that are willing to work too. It's not just about saying big up, all right, boo boo, go on. No, there's work to be done. And it has to be, and anyone has ever given me money, know that I use their money wisely, because you think that I had a $300,000 campaign when we only had a $50,000 campaign, because I make it do what it do. But I need that money in order to get to more people. This even Gwinnett County is a county of almost 1 million people with over 600,000 people that are registered to vote. And you have to try to reach as many people as possible.
Thank you so much. And James Epperson, thanks for joining us. Folks, we got to take a break. And when we come back, we're going to have some more conversations with the Honorable Donna McCleoud. We want to get her perspective on the most recent presidential election. So we're going to have some questions, but let's take a quick break and let's talk about the bold kids.
I'm a bold kid, I'm a bold kid. I'm a bold kid, I'm a bold kid. I wake up in the morning and I praise the Lord. I thank Him for His protection, and I walk in His steps, declaring that today's provision is set up for me. I love God and I love my friends. I'm a bold kid. I'm a bold kid. I'm a bold kid. I put on my armor and I write His word, blessing come out of my mouth, cause I know to whom I belong. I am bold for Christ, Holy Spirit dwelling within me, carrying His presence wherever He sends me. I'm a bold kid, I'm a bold kid. I'm a bold kid, I'm a bold kid. Loving others as He told me to pray, for healing, miracles to see, knowing my identity in Christ, He is in me. I am a bold kid, He loves me, standing firm on His word, proclaiming everything I heard, not afraid because He is with me. Be bold. I'm a bold kid, I'm a bold kid, I'm a bold kid, I'm a bold kid. Put on my armor and I write His word, blessing come out of my mouth, because I know to whom I belong. I am bold for Christ, Holy Spirit dwelling within me, carrying His presence wherever He sends me. I'm a bold kid, I'm a bold kid, I'm a bold kid, I'm a bold kid.
All right, welcome back to Bridging Generation, Voices of Men and True Powerful Women. We're on the platform tonight. We have Dr. Donna L. Thompson and we have the Honorable Donna McCleoud. And of course, we have my co-hosts, Dr. Juan Marcel and Dr. McCook just left. Let's send him off with our love and our blessings. Travel safe, my brother. Because, it's all about that. We're all about lifting each other and protecting each other. Now, I'm going to move to reflections on the most recent presidential election. And given the results that we just saw, right? How do you feel the outcome of the past election will impact all that you have done, all that you have championed, such as voting rights, education, and social justice?
So I remember the first everybody that's in my sphere, they know how passionate I've been about this. So, they were concerned for me. So I was getting texts. A couple people waited for a day or two to contact me because they know how I feel about this. So I guess the first word that actually came to me after this election was just disgusted. I was just disgusted. This country has basically elected a person who has been convicted on 34 felony charges. This is a man that does not, I don't think he has even read the Constitution. And he brags about the Bible, which I don't think he knows one friggin' Bible verse in it. But this is what the people in this country, and because I believe in voting, and I believe that the power of the people should be so. What if they say? I will accept that. We have a saying in Jamaican, say, if not listen, you're going to feel. And I think they will feel. And maybe then they will see different. I don't know what the end will be, but I am concerned for this country. I know that the rest of the world is looking at us. I have family in England, Jamaica, Canada, and they're all very just stunned. But I think it's important. I was also living in a battleground state. So all of us live in a battleground state, right? Georgia is a battleground state. We've gone through a lot in Georgia. We were able to give the United States Senate 2 senators from the state of Georgia. We've worked hard in just making sure that we got out. I don't think the vice president was served well. I noticed that the grassroots organizing was lacking. I know that as a person who lived in Gwinnett County, I personally had to do my own grassroots organizing on behalf of the VP, since I was not on the ballot. I was on the ballot in May because I ran to be the chairwoman for Gwinnett County, and I lost. And I'm a woman who, one of the things that I am is I accept things for what it is. I know I would be the best chairwoman that you would have, but it is what it is, right? I didn't have the money to get out my message like I needed to. But I don't believe the vice president was served well. I did not see a lot of grassroots organizing. And I noticed that the felons campaign campaign was targeting young Black men very early in the year. Actually, by June, my nephew had already gotten 3 mailers from the felon. And we had yet to get anything from the Harris's campaign. And I know she got in pretty late, with only 107 days she had from the point that she got in. So there was some adversity, but the state party also had a responsibility to making sure that they provided the kind of leadership on that. And I felt that was lacking. But at the end of the day, this is a country still steeped in conflict of ethnicity, especially when it comes to skin color. And the white women did not vote their own interests, which has been done for centuries, since the 1920s, when women were fighting for their ability to vote. Black women stood with white women, and at the end of the day, they left us hanging. And it seems like they left us hanging again. And so that's kind of hard and painful. Now, I will say that educated white women did vote overwhelmingly for the VP. But women in general, should have been much more cognitive of their own bodily autonomy and having that right to the ability to make sure they make the decisions on their own. Black women have always been the conscience of the world. We voted 92%, not because all of us think alike, because we do not, but all of us knew and understood the assignment and weren't going to fail it. And that we did. We showed up and we showed out. And for that, I want to thank every Black woman, my sisters. We have to just reflect. We did nothing wrong. We stood up for what we thought was right, and we did what was right. It's unfortunate we were not victorious, but we know that there are even women that have a hard time seeing women in leadership. And that's pretty sad, because as a woman who's raised a child, who had to work, bring in the bacon, kill the cockroaches, nail a picture on a wall, I've done it all. I don't need you to tell me if I can lead. I've shown you I can lead. And if I can't convince you enough, that's on you, not on me. And like I said before, if you don't listen, you're going to feel. And so that's the gist of it. I think the vice president did an excellent job within that 107 days to present a case to the American people about decency, which is one of the reasons why I actually voted more than anything else was decency. I think that we should treat each of us with respect and our dignity as human beings. And I think she did a great job in just bringing that kind of level of joy in the campaign. But also, she's an highly intelligent woman, probably one of the most qualified people. But yet she was not qualified enough because she was of her gender and her ethnicity. So that's unfortunate.
And so unfortunate. And talking about gender, ethnicity, and decency, and you use the words, well, I think you said 34
counts, felony charges. 34.
What is that saying about the values of the American people?
It says that supremacy is way more important than decency.
Okay.
That's what it says. Yeah.
Right. That's
holding on to power is more important than the decency. Because if a man wants to grab a woman by her private parts, that's somebody I don't want to know. I don't want to know. I don't. It's disrespectful. And you know what, us Jamaicans, enough respect is not a slogan for us, right? It's a way of life.
A way of life.
A way of life.
Dr. Donna, I'm going to pass it to you.
Wow.
A way of life.
No, it's very disheartening, right? It's very disheartening.
Yeah.
What we've seen is like no words can even explain, and what to come, at this point, who knows, right? Who knows what's to come. But what I wanted to ask you, going back, as being a mother, a grandmother, and seeing all that is happening, right? How do you hope to inspire future generations within your own family and the community? Because we know that, now it's all about the younger ones that's coming after us.
So probably that's the two most important title I've ever had in my life, was to be the mother of Crystal Kelleher McLeod and the grandmother of Grayson Williford. I am honored, and I'm also somebody's sister, and I'm somebody's daughter. And so those titles are way more important, because when it's all said and done, and they said, what do you say about Donna McCleoud? I hope they said, I'm glad I met her along the way. But inspiration, I think I've always believed in leading by example. I believe that it's important that your word should be your bond. If you say you're going to do something, right? And if you can't do it, at least get back to the person and let them know. And young people, actually, I actually volunteered on election day to poll watch. And the amount of Gen Z that was coming in, I was really quite impressed. I think what needs to happen is not just to get them registered to vote, because civics has been taken out of school And I think they don't quite understand why it's really important to vote, not just to vote, but why, and why they need to do their job in looking at the candidates up close and personal, but also to understand the process and also understand what government actually is about. Some people have it completely warped, right? And they throw the president, the federal level government into the state government. They show the state government into the county government, and they sell the county government to the city. They're all separate, and now everybody has separate responsibility. And one of the things I want to tell people about, and I'm grateful to, first of all, I want to thank everyone that has ever voted for me. I appreciate it. But one of the beauty of being at the table is that the government is separated, has departments. So each level of government basically funds departments with your tax dollars, right? So like in the state of Georgia, the largest funding bucket that we have is actually public schools, right? The only problem I have, even though we spend a lot of money in public school, the problem is the formula that funds public schools in the state of Georgia, the last time it was updated was 1987. Okay, Gwinnett County doesn't look nothing like 1987, and the needs are different. And what people don't understand, the federal government actually funds all your resources that are given to children with special need and lunches, what do you call it, affordable lunches. That's all federally done. The state is nothing to do with it. So when they're running around saying they're going to dismantle the Department of Education, there are a lot of children that are going to pay a price. Remember when I say you don't listen, you will feel? This is really, really critical. I in fact, before I got on here, I got this news break thing coming over saying one of the highest amount of Googling after the election was people saying if they can resend their vote. Like, no, there are no do-overs. This election was pretty clear. You said you wanted a felon to be your president, so now you're going to get it. And there are consequences, and I mean consequences. The reason why we collectively pay these taxes is not because none of us like taxes. Come on now. If we don't have to, we don't have to pay taxes, we'd all be happy. But the reason why we pay taxes is so that we can kind of collectively live in a society that the difference between rich and poor is not that great. And the more we don't have that kind of social net, that difference becomes wider and wider, and people start hurting. And I've always said this: your need to survive outweighs your need for humanity. So if you don't feel that you're going to be able to survive, you're going to find it some way, and it could be a knife or a gun in your back. And I don't mean to be, I'm a very blunt person, and I'm very straightforward, and I'm an engineer, so my brain works in a way, and I'm very logical. But I'm just want people to understand that when you don't have support, desperation comes in, and desperate people do desperate things.
What a way to end that one. Dr. Juan.
Yeah.
Desperate people do what?
Desperate things.
Desperate things.
And that's a fact. Dr. Juan.
Well, you actually touched on something. We actually spoke just a week ago, Doc. And the biggest thing I kept pushing, much like you, I think you put it to word perfectly. I couldn't describe how I felt that Wednesday morning. Disappointment was definitely one, but I think disgusted was the other word. But what I kept coming to, it was to lead me to my question, is more education. I realize in our community, what Black and Brown community, is a lot of things we don't know about the system in itself, the governments, like you said, what happens at the local level, what happens at the state level, so I appreciate you sharing that. But I want to ask this, because I thought about, what can I do this next go around? How do I get more involved? Is it organized, and just what does it look like? So my question to you is, like, what strategies do you believe should be prioritized to keep people engaged in the political process, especially after this most recent election.
Mm-hmm.
I will say that anyone, I don't care what your nonprofit is or what you're doing, include civic. Get kids to be civic. Care about where they live, who they're interacting with. A society is the umbrella, but the community is the nucleus, right? And so everything that we teach our kids are like sponges. I watch my grandson. Sometimes I just sit back and I'm like, okay, this kid is off the chain. But then I realize how much he's learning by just what I'm doing or my daughter's doing, but also what other kids are doing in school. And I'm shocked sometimes at the things this roadblocks and the way he's able to manipulate things. I'm like, what the heck? But everything, I will recommend this highly, because at every single stage of life, civics should be a part of it. You eat, you sleep, you have a roof over your head, you provide nourishment, provide civics as well. And I remember when I was a state legislator, this guy came to me and said that there's these guys that are willing to put some money into the community. And I was a state legislator, so he wanted to kind of bring my name on it so that it has some credibility. And he asked me to, sponsor this. And I said, does it include civic engagement and civic knowledge? And he said, no. I said, well, I can't be a part of that. You can't just be you can't be just recruiting our kids to play football and then don't tell them that they have rights and responsibility in this society.
Yeah.
I'm not accepting that anymore, because when our kids went out there and got registered to vote, a lot of them didn't understand what they were actually voting for. Because there's so much noise, and there's the traditional news sources are not the traditional anymore, right? It's now internet, there's TikTok, there's Instagram. And so I feel that the more you have an interaction one-on-one with a person is the biggest and the best way, because if a young person trusts you, you're more likely to get through to them and block out some of that nonsense. And maybe even when something comes to them and they say, that don't sound right, they're going to come to somebody they trust. And so if I was going to do anything different, everything should include civic, everything, civic engagement, civic responsibility. What roles do we play in our communities so we can have good human beings that actually care about each other? There's so much selfishness going on that it's causing us so much more than we think. And the loss of my sister last year really brought it home to me that we don't take nothing with us. And I had to take over her home. I had to get it into an estate. I had to learn how to do all of that stuff because she couldn't take it with her. And those of us that are alive, we got to figure it out. And so at the end of the day, when it's all said and done, and we're no longer part of the flesh and living, you hope that you leave a legacy. You hope that people said, I'm glad I met that person along the way. That's what you should be trying to achieve, not just material things, because that will come and go. Sometimes I look in a picture and I think, oh my gosh, I owned it. I owned that shoes. I don't remember it, but because it's not relevant. But guess what matters? It's the little things. It's those little things. Like I go into a space and I smell something cooking that reminded me of my grandmother when she was cooking. That's beautiful. That's beautiful to me. Watching the leaves, change color. That's beautiful, and it's priceless. It doesn't cost anything. All that material things is to show somebody else. It's not fulfilling for you. I'm not saying not to have material things. Absolutely, all of us want a little luxury, but if you prioritize it as first, then you'll always miss the humanity in the people that surround you.
So true. So true. One thing is obvious to me, right? And this is the second time we've interviewed the Honorable Donna McCleoud. And it's obvious that an hour and a half show is not long enough for her.
No.
It's obvious. That's obvious to me. But what we're going to do before we go to break and come back with some final thoughts, I want to ask you to look, get as close as you can get to the camera, and single out that one person who's been so impactful in your life and tell them thank you.
So I guess my grandmother, she's no longer here. So
you get to do two.
I get
one that is here.
So first, shout out to Mother Mark, wherever you are. And I will have to say, it'll probably be another person, my sister, Jacqueline. When I got pregnant at 18 years old, and my intention was to go to a home for unwed mothers. And she got a bachelor's apartment. And we moved into this bachelor's apartment with and I was pregnant at the time. And she worked 2 jobs so I could go back to school.
Wow.
So I could give my daughter a decent life. So I want to thank my sister, my grandmother, who are not here. But I also want to thank the people that have always said, you know what? I support you regardless, even if they didn't agree with everything I did. They know that my heart was in the right place, and that's quite a few people. But I want to just shout out Susan Clymer, who when I started was there. I want to shout my mom, who has always been, even when we didn't have nothing. I remember when we didn't have anything one time, and I remember seeing the corner of her mouth being dry, and she gave us what she had, and she didn't eat. Wow. So for me, those are the sacrifices that I truly appreciate. And, there's a young lady named Dosmeen and Sharon Thompson. They have always showed up for me, and I'm grateful. And Sophie Gibson, who's an extraordinary marketer, by the way, and she's Jamaican born. And just, when I didn't have a lot of money, they do stuff in kind for me to make sure I get over the hump. And Claudette Forbes, who's my ride and die. Even when she mad at me, she tell me, Danny, I want to do that. And if I show her that, I knew what I was doing, she said, all right, then we do it. And that's it. And so I'm, my daughter, who's had a struggle in the last year with a cancer diagnosis, and, she still pushes through. So for me, I am surrounded with incredible people. You never do anything by yourself. And I think at the end of the day, that is truly the things that matter the most.
That's circle. That's circle. And we thank you for sharing that. We wanted one, but they're all equal. They're all powerful in your life. So we'll take it as one.
Yes.
We'll take it as one. Let us take a quick break. We're going to play Dr. Donna Thompson's video. And when we come back, we're going to ask for you to just speak on what you're seeing as far as the video is concerned. And then we'll have closing arguments. Is that okay?
Sounds good.
All right.
Caught in the web of what they said, lost in the expectations, living in hesitation. I walked in other shadows. Deep inside, a fire burned, a whisper turned to a roar. I am liberated from walking in other shadows. I walk in my authentic self, breaking chains within. You into someone you couldn't be, fighting through the darkness to find the real me. No longer bound by others' rules. Let your spirit soar. With every step you take, you are stronger than before. I am liberated from walking in other shadows. I walk in my authentic self, breaking chains within. Within, beacon of light, I'll always be living in truth, walking in victory. I am free, yes, I am free. From the shadows to the light, I am free, walking in my truth, forever free. living in victory, shining brightly. I am liberated from walking in other shadows. I walk in my authentic self. Breaking chains with self.
Welcome back to Bridging Generation, Voices of Men and Two Powerful Women. That's what we have here tonight. We have the Honorable Donna McCleoud and Dr. Donna Thompson, of course, my everyday weekly co-host, Dr. Juan Marcel, my main man, and Dr. McCook was here. We're going to send him off in a safe way. So travel good, my brother. So, Donna, Dr. Donna, before we ask, we go back to the Honorable Donna McCleoud. Just real quick, tell us what Shadows Within is all about, real quick.
Sure. So Shadows Within basically is an anthology where we'll have several co-authors sharing their story on how they've actually had to overcome expectations in their lives, right? That others probably have put on them, saying that this is what you ought to be, and just different expectations, or living in other people's what I would say other people's shadow, and not really living to their authentic self, right? But so they'll be sharing their story on their life journey of how they were living in something else, in some other shadow, and then how they've broken away from it to now really stand on their feet and really just authentically say, this is who I am. Kind of like a rebirth, right? Finding yourself and truly now living your purpose and what you were created for. So that's why it's going to be approximately, I think 20 to 21 co-authors that will be sharing that story.
Wow.
Wow.
Can men participate?
Oh, absolutely.
So I have to ask questions because the one I'm doing, I'm sorry to say, it's becoming iron. It's a story about men, because men need to play. As the Honorable Donna McCleoud talk about Black women and how they have championed our cause and done so much. I think Black men need to step up, and becoming iron is about that. We need to create that model, that whatever that thing is that we need to do better. And that's what that particular one is all about. So it's only for men, just for men, for that reason only. So it's good to know that Shadows Within is for all people. All people.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
so
Our men, the same thing. Our men, they've gone through those storms as well in their lives, where expectations have been placed on them, and they really, a lot of and I'm quite sure if we listen to, a lot of our men, they probably have not really blossomed into who they really were created to be.
I so agree, because I know I'm still blossoming. I'm still finding my place and working diligently at it. Right? And I know, Dr. Juan, you're at it as well. We're both. We live in a learning space where we're always seeking to make improvements, and that's what life is all about. Because if you're not doing what you're doing, you're dying, right? Simple. Report. So, Honorable Donna McCleoud, just quick thoughts on the book and Shadows, and then I think we'll take it to some closing arguments. And for you to add anything else you want to share with us.
I think with both the books, I think it's important that we're extending to others so that they can feel a part of, right? Because most of the time people think they're not worthy and then look for someone else to give them worthiness. And I think ensuring that people know that they are worthy, and with Iron, I want Black men to know that we also know that majority of Black men support us. They have always known that our space together is one that we have to be together on, because we're so identifiable, right, by our skin color. And so Black men have been overall supportive. I do want to see Black men really take up the mantle to help us with the next generation of our young people, to make sure they feel confident in becoming. And so I know it's a men, so I hope that men will read it and really feel that they're an individual in that book, not just words on a page, right? To execute it. I think Dr. Thompson's book is about being self-aware, right? Not getting lost in anybody else's shadow. You got your own. You cast your own shadow. Ain't nobody gonna cast one for you, especially if you're a solid body. You're gonna cast that out. And I think, again, folks that love to read and are always are seeking to be better, I think these are two great books for people to pick up and read them, but also know that you're ultimately a divine entity, and whatever you read or learn is just something to help you enhance. It's not to tell you how to exactly be, but how to enhance and be a better person, because we're all in service of each other. People kind of think that you have to be some kind of star to have influence. No. Influence is if somebody really trusts you and you are consistent in making sure that and follow up and follow through. The more you do that is the more people have confidence in you. I remember the first time I was a manager in corporate America, and this is my first time and being a manager, and this young lady comes to me and said, Miss Donna, what should I do? And I gave her a set of things and I sat there for about half an hour and saying, oh Lord, I hope I gave her the right instruction. I hope that it's and I'm nervous, right? And then when it was all said and done, and she came back and said, it's all done now, and things, it gave me more confidence. And as the years went by, I just got better at it. Not because I came in here knowing, the more you do something, the better you get at it. But self-worth, and we don't talk about self-worth. I remember when I was a kid, there was a lot of conversation about self-worth. You need to have your own self-worth. You cannot, nobody can define it for you. You have to define it. And you always try to get things to enhance you. Sometimes people go to too many arenas or avenues and get confused. Yes, you won't get confused if you know who you are from the start. Everything is just to enhance, not to deplete you. Anything that depletes you, leave it alone. Because anytime, it's not that criticism is not a good thing. Absolutely. I think my friends, I have some of the most ride or die, straight up, no nonsense. They'll tell you, if your breath still, they're going to tell you your breath smell. That's the kind of people I have around me. But again, once you have those kind of people around you, you're always going to fare better than someone who's going to try to make you just continually just big you up, and then if you don't have it no more, then gone. That is not what you want. You want consistency and want people that really care about you and have your back.
Absolutely. Dr. Donna, final thoughts?
Oh my gosh. Final thoughts. Wow. I mean, so much has really been shared this evening, but I think my final thoughts, I once again, definitely, Honorable Donna, thank you so much for sharing so much with us and teaching us, right? Teaching us so much about our government system, right? But my final thoughts is just like what you're saying. I think there is so much more that we need to know as a people in this country about how our government operates. I think there is a lot of misconceptions biases and lack of understanding, right? That unfortunately, I think a lot of people are going out there and doing certain things. That's why now we're seeing where people are going back and looking at Google thinking, oh, let me take my vote back. Because now, so I think I say that, to all our people that's listening is definitely really to go out there and make a conscious effort to really try to understand how the government works, how the local government works, how your federal government works. Because I know I've learned a lot this evening that I did not know, which is very important because it's going to affect all of us, right? Regardless of our ethnicity or whatever we think it may be. At the end of the day, it's one United States of America, and we're all living here. And whatever decisions is made, it's going to affect all of us. So go out there, be informed, get the knowledge.
Go out there, be informed, get the knowledge. Honorable Donna McCleod, is there anything else you wanted to add before I say my piece?
Yeah, one of the things I want to express to folks about government, right? The only color that government really cares about is the color green. The money they collect from you. Yep. And who's at the table will determine what services you get and how it gets funded. And sometimes if you're not holding people accountable, that money can go into other people's pocket. I'm just saying that, okay? Just like that. And it's different ways of getting it into people's pocket. They're going to say, I'm going to write you a big check and that's it. That's not how it works. Wow. That's not how it works. And so it's important that you remember the one color. It's not because they ever wanted to be fair to Black people. When the boycott up happened in Montgomery, Alabama, it wasn't because they liked Black people. Black people got off the bus for over a year and damaged their money. And all of a sudden they had a new awakening to making sure that Black people can, get a seat at the table and get some more additional rights. All right. So keep that in mind, that the dollar is the green number that matters the most. And who controls the purse controls the power. Also, I will also always end with this quote, and I've already said this quote: knowledge is the most important thing you give to yourself, not just education, but knowledge. People always say to me, common sense. Somebody should have common sense. Common sense is not common. Common sense is learned behavior applied in different situations. So if I burnt myself on a stove, the next time I feel heat coming off something, I'm probably not going to touch it. That's common sense. So just keep that. So knowledge is the most important thing you give to yourself. But the vote is the most important thing we give to each other because it determines how that green dollar gets used.
Well, and as you say the vote, I think I'll jump in here. But first, let me say, Honorable Donna McCleoud, that I really appreciate you coming on. And very short notice as well. We asked you to come on yesterday, and you graced us and blessed us with your presence and the information that you have to share. I watched you throughout this whole election cycle, and I saw someone who was out there just doing the work. There was no selfish bone in you anywhere. You did it, and you did it, and you did it, and you did it every day I saw you up there. And I was so impressed and just grateful to even know this person who is out there making it happen so much. So I want to tell you, let's keep doing what you're doing, and don't let anything deter you. And I know you won't, but there are times when we feel discouraged because we're humans, right? But don't ever let anything stop you for what your work is so important, so critical, necessary for all of us, all people, Black, white, pink, orange, red, whatever. It's very important, but more important to someone like me, people who look like us, because we happen to be in the wrong place too often on the ladder, right? So, so appreciate you so much for coming here and for sharing what you've shared tonight. And with that in mind, I want to say that why should we participate in the process? I'm not just talking about voting, but why should we participate in the process? Because elections have consequences. Elections have consequences, and the outcome of this most recent election will affect many lives. Some people will find benefits in it and others will not. It's just a reality, right? Change sometimes for us, can be daunting. But I want to remind everyone, let everyone know that this is a moment to look at it from a different perspective. We must understand that, as I said, change is inevitable, but it's a part of who we are. It's built in the very fabric of our existence. And and one thing about change, it doesn't wait for anyone's permission. Change pop up, it arrives uninvited, sometimes as a gentle nudge, right? Other times as a forceful push, which this one feels like a forceful push. But one thing it does, it brings us out of our comfort zones and propelling us to change and do things different, right? So here's something I want to say. We must hold on to our authentic selves. We must become us. Change is the test of our resilience. It's the catalyst for our growth and often the key to unlocking our fullest potential, right? So throughout all that is happening, we must understand that change is constant. It's constant, it doesn't matter. We must test and resort to our values, our beliefs, and the spirit. Because no one can shake us if we fall back into those important things, right? When you genuinely know who you are, and you talk about that earlier, we become unbreakable. We become unbreakable. So we must anchor ourselves in our true selves and rise, and that way we'll be able to rise above any storm, any setback, or any twist or turn in our story, right? So tonight, this is what I want to leave us with. Let us embrace change, not always as something to fear, but as an opportunity to realign with who we are meant to become. I don't know too many individuals who are where they need to be. We are not doing all that we can do. So we need to use this change to propel us to become who we're meant to be. So, I also want to say that we're more than capable, right? We're very resilient kind of people. And we're bold. We have the Hon Donna on tonight, and who's bolder than she is? Who's bolder? And understand that we are the authors of our lives. And by embracing change as we should, we can't afford to lose ourselves. We will find ourselves, refine, strengthen, and prepare for the future. So I just want to say again, thank you, Honorable Donna, for sharing with us and bridging generations, voices of men and women, and that may you be blessed always as you walk forward with your purpose and conviction. Juan, I'm going to turn it over to you to do your piece.
Hey, we closing out?
Yes, you are.
To our distinguished guest, our audience, we always appreciate you tuning in and just joining this conversation, this discussion every week. Thursday, 7:30 Eastern Standard Time. We appreciate the Honorable Donna McCleoud, our distinguished guest. And here, I'll leave you with this before we go. Everyone has a part. Tap in and figure out what your part is. You may not can do everything, but you can do something. So figure out what that part is, and y'all, let's continue to build, cultivate, and change the narrative. We appreciate you joining in tonight. Y'all have a good one.
Blessing, bless up. Let me take a quick break and we'll.
I'm a boy kid, I'm a boy kid. I'm a boy kid, I'm a boy kid.